All right, today we're talking about building a pitching delivery capable of throwing 100 miles an hour. If you want to throw 100, you need an efficient and powerful drive leg. But here's the thing, I'm not going to give you the general advice of, oh, just get into your back leg or push off the rubber as hard as you can, because that's just not what you need, especially if you want to be throwing in the upper 90s and beyond. So here are the 3 components that I think about with the drive leg and how you can actually have it power your throw and become your strength rather than it be holding you back. By the way, I'm Josh Gessner. I've been up to 98 miles an hour in my professional baseball career, and I'm on my way to throw 100 miles an hour, so I think about this stuff all day. If this is something you need help with, you can book a call. First link in the description below, and we'll come up with a plan for you. All right, so the first thing that I think about with the back leg is actually the back hip. And you've probably heard the term like, oh, get into your glute or get into your hip, get into your back leg. And where this basically came from was from Brent Strom and a bunch of other guys who were studying some of the highest throwing guys back in the day. I think it was like 2012, something like that. And basically they were studying guys like Aroldis Chapman, they were studying guys like Trevor Rosenthal, and all of these guys threw 100, right? And they were trying to look for commonalities. And what they kind of saw was that the back leg was at a certain angle. And so it might have been at like this angle to where, like, you know, they were actually getting a little bit deeper into their back leg and they were throwing, right? And that's kind of where it came from, where it was like, oh, start getting into your back glute and back leg. What they started to find was that when you load it into your back leg like this, then it would activate your glute, which was a lot more powerful than if you were to use your quad or anything else, okay? And so that's kind of where the term came from, but there are a couple misconceptions that come out of that, which is like, you know, for people who are like, oh, I need to get into my back leg, and so they're trying to get as deep as they can, or they're trying to, you know, not even drift, and they're just like trying to put as much force into the ground as much as possible. And that's just not the right way to go about things, especially with the back leg. And so the first thing that I really like with the back leg is this back hip, right? And it's kind of like you want to feel, if you put your hand here, you want to feel like a pinch right there. It's like you want to feel this pinch. And this is kind of like the position that you want to be in when you're going down the mountain. And this is because when you're here and you feel this pinch, right, your pelvis is going to counter rotate. Okay, it's going to counter rotate and it's going to tilt upwards just like this. So when you're going down the mound, when you're counter rotated, your hips are counter rotated and up slightly, you're storing so much energy to be able to release at foot plant, right? We don't want to have the pelvis open like this and then throw, because there's just no energy getting stored. And so a really, really easy way to think about getting into your back leg and get into your glutes and stuff like that is literally just to feel this pinch. Because if you feel this pinch, then you're probably at, you know, a pretty good depth, right? And we'll touch on depth in a second, but you're into this and you'll probably be really feeling your glutes, right? Your pelvis is in a good counter-rotated position, and it's also tilted up. And so it's just ready for you to get down the mound and really release, okay? And so this is something that I'm working on because, you know, I had a tendency to be really quad dominant. And so like I would have a tendency to kind of go like this. And what I started to find was that there's a lot of leaking energy, right? I'm leaving a lot on the table just by doing this, because just by being here counter-rotated, I'm storing so much more energy than if I were here and everything was open and I will go throw, okay? And so that is number one. You want to feel this pinch in your back hip, right? And that's how you're kind of going to get into your glute, into your posterior chain rather than the quad. And right here, it puts your pelvis in a really good position to store energy and then release at full plant. And so another detail that you might think about with the back leg is the back foot, right? There are people who angle their back foot like this. There are people who angle it like this. You know, it's very much dependent on the athlete. But what I would say is I do like this like neutral straight back foot, because, you know, I used to be more like this because I'm very externally rotated biased. But what this actually created was that if I'm here, then to get this back hip pinch, I need to be all the way here. And it's like, how are you supposed to throw a strike and throw to the target, you know? And so when I was able to get it through more here, more neutral, more straight, then all I needed was right here. And I could feel that pinch in my back hip, and I'm in my glute, and I was ready to go. And that'll put me in a good position to fire. You know, if you're a guy who's trying to get into, you know, the mid 90s, upper 90s, even if you're a little bit low velocity guy, you know, you can really start to think about, okay, where am I feeling that tension, and adjust this accordingly. You know, if you're more of an internally rotated biased guy, then, you know, you might be more like here, and that's what makes you feel comfortable. It's very, very athlete dependent. But for me, I was right here, but I was feeling no tension. You know, there was no pinch in my back hip. I wasn't putting my pelvis in a good position. And so just by going like this, I was able to put my pelvis in a good position to be able to fire at full plant and feel that tension, okay? And so to really simplify the first point, it's just to feel this pinch in the back hip, right? I know we talked about the drift in a previous video, but once you feel that drift, you're feeling this pinch in the hip. That's where you want to get into. It's not like a quad drop, or it's not anything else. It's just right here, you're getting into drift, and then just drop into this back hip pinch. And now your pelvis is in a really good position, counter rotated back, to be able to, once you land, right, it's just gonna all rotate downwards and down the mound rather than rotating upwards or anything like that. So the second big key with the back leg is actually how deep you get with the back leg. And so again, there is a misconception of, oh, I just want to get as deep as I can because that's what feels powerful, right? And even like guys who, you know, we've worked with at the Pitcher Lab, feel like if they get it to a balance point and they just put as much force into the ground, that makes them feel powerful. And so those aren't really like the best ways to think about it. And this is something that I made a big mistake with my whole career, honestly. And I just thought that getting the deepest I could was how I was gonna throw really, really hard. And you know, it got me to 95. But what I started to realize was if I wanna get to, you know, the upper 90s, the 100 mark, then I need to think a little bit differently about my back leg. And so the one thing I will say though is that everyone has different optimal depths, right? Some people, like someone like Giordano Ventura, had very much minimal back leg depth, but he still threw, you know, low hundreds. And there are other guys who get really, really deep and throw 100, right? And so it's all really based on the athlete. But kind of ways I like to think about it is there's this drill that I really, really like to kind of find your optimal depth with the back leg. And it's basically you just jump onto the mound and throw down the mound. And whatever your back leg depth is on this drill, you know, could be pretty close to your optimal depth. And so it was interesting. This was actually a couple of days ago where, you know, this is something I'm really working on because I have a tendency, again, to get too deep, right? I get too deep and it makes it hard for me to rotate and fire out of. And so I was throwing off the mound, you know, and I wasn't feeling too great. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna try this drill. And, you know, I did this drill where I was like, bang, bang. And I started throwing harder at less effort. And I was like, why is that? And the answer was that I was using my back leg way, way better, right? With my pitching delivery, I was pretty much right here. I was getting deep and trying to get out of it, okay? And it might look powerful, but that wasn't leading to as much ball velocity then if I were to just here, bang, okay? And part of it is because of ground reaction forces, okay? With the back leg, what you really want to feel is when you put force into the ground, you want to feel the ground pushing back up, okay? If you put force into the ground, force comes back up into your body. It's called ground reaction forces. Basically what was happening with my pitching delivery was that I was just putting force into the ground, and then I never really got that impulse back because it was just like a down and then I was throwing, okay? It was kind of just more of like a dead leg almost, where I was like getting down, and then throwing. There was no time for the ground to put energy back into my body, you know, to convert that into the throw. But what happened when I did this drill was that I'm putting force into the ground, and then I can actively feel that energy rebounding back into my body for me to throw, okay? And so even if you try this at home, you can really feel this. Try to feel like right here, getting deep and throwing. Yes, it looks nice. Yes, it looks like you're getting to the back leg. But then try this. It's like, it's way, way more explosive. And you can really feel this like impulse coming back out from the ground. And this is where you get a really hard car crash effect on the front leg, okay? And so this was something that it was like a light bulb moment for me. I was like, oh dang, so I maybe don't need to get as deep, because getting too deep, right, is a thing. And it makes it really hard for you to efficiently rotate out of, right, and then block, right? And it also kills you're not getting as much linear momentum down the mount as you could, as if you're feeling that impulse and you're just going down, okay? And so right now, with my optimal depth, that's kind of what I'm feeling is like, okay, this is what I'm feeling. I'm in my back hip, right? It's pinching, and I'm right here. And this is like my strongest position, okay? This position right here. I could probably hold like a bunch of weight at this position and still be good, And so that's what I started to carry over into my pitching delivery was, okay, now I'm feeling this. Let's try to get that into the pitching delivery. I said, okay, it's like, bang. And it's a lot more explosive, right? That's why I kind of don't like the term of ride down the mount. Because in my mind, what that kind of translates to is like, oh, ride down the mountain, like be slow, and then explode. It's like, cool, but I like to feel explosive, right? Pitching happens in milliseconds. It's an explosive movement, right? And so what I kind of like to think about is more feel impulses, right? Feel bursts of energy up the chain and into the arm. And so this is one of them, which is bang, bang. The ground is pushing back at you and literally just guiding you through the throw. It's kind of like propelling you forward. And the one thing I will say on this, though, is that I'm not trying to actively extend. It's not like like that, right? It's not like I'm actively trying to extend. What you want to do is to relax into the back leg, okay? So it's relax, bang. And it's very much reflexive what the back leg is doing. I'm not actively trying to push. It's more just get onto the back leg, get to the front leg, bang. Why you want to relax into the back leg is, if you were to do like a vertical jump, right? You wouldn't go like this, right? You want to be like, it's a lot more athletic, right? You're relaxing down as hard as you can, and then you're jumping up, right? And studies have shown that, the quicker you go down, the higher you go up. And so that's what we kind of want to emulate in the pitching delivery with the back leg is, okay, we get the drift, and then we're just relaxing down into this back leg. We're just relaxing it into this back hip, into this back leg. And for me, it kind of feels like this feeling, which bang, bang. For the pitching delivery, obviously we're connected, but it's relax down and then catch it and just get to the front leg, okay? So it looks something like this, where it's drift, catch it, bang. It's more of a catch rather than like a drive or anything like that. It's more of just again, if you feel this, you can really, really feel it. And then you want to catch and then throw. And so firstly, what this does is obviously catching it with the back hip puts your pelvis in a really good counter-rotated position to be able to fire, right? But also this catch is going to give you a lot more linear momentum down the mount because you're actually using the ground and the ground reaction forces, okay? The last thing I will say about the depth, right, is that we want to make sure that our back leg is in a good angle, right? It has a good force vector to propel us going that way. It doesn't matter how good we are at using the ground if we're right here and then we're doing this, right? And it's just straight up and down. Like the hardest throwers are putting a lot of force going that way with their back leg, right? To propel themselves going that way. And so that's what we need to do is drift, which is really, really important to actually create this angle, right? To be able to put force that way instead of just down. If you're in a balance point, then all you can do is really, put force down. But you want to drift so that you're putting force that way so that it propels you forward, right? And so it kind of looks like this, where it's drift. Now your force vector is right here. And now all you have to do is relax into it, feel that ground, push back, and get to your front leg, okay? Bang! Okay, that's kind of what it looks like. Now, once you get that back leg depth, you got your force vector, you got your optimal depth, and you're feeling that ground pushing back because you relaxed into it, right? And you're feeling a lot of force. Now what do? This is where a lot of people make the mistake of, okay, now what I need to do is feel this rotate as hard as I can, okay? And I don't like this view because if you're feeling your hips rotate, like it's probably really, really slow. This stretch, hip to shoulder separation, or this stretch of the oblique sling right here, should be such a violent movement that you shouldn't really be able to feel your hips through and then your shoulders come through. Like, then it's probably too slow, okay? We need it to be so quick. And with, hip to shoulder separation, timing matters more than how much you get, right? And so even if you get an astronomical amount of like bang, and then your torso is like all the way back, and then you throw, it doesn't matter if it's not quick or timed up right. I'd rather you have a tiny bit of separation right here, but it's explosive, right? It's timed up right and it's explosive. And so I don't really like to think about, rotate the back leg. I like to think about just weight shift to your front leg. Just shift your weight, right? Feeling that ground, and just get to the front leg. Because what the front leg is gonna do is that once you land, right? When you get to the front leg, your hips are gonna start to open, but it's not gonna be fully open like this, right? It's gonna continue to open. And what I like about the front foot is that it's just gonna pop open this hip, because this is all connected. As this extends, right? It's going to pop open the hips, okay? That's kind of what I like about it, and it feels way more explosive when you feel, okay, I'm just gonna feel this, get to the front leg. All right, that feels way more explosive than you feel like, oh, okay, I'm gonna rotate. It's like, okay, but like it just doesn't, if you feel it, there's way more impulse and energy getting sent up the chain if you don't even worry about the rotate, and all you're worrying about is feeling that ground, get to the front leg. That's kind of how I like to view it. My partner, Albertus Barber with the Pitch Lab, he threw 100 thinking about, okay, I'm gonna try to get my back knee down as hard as I can. And so, yeah, there are different ways to think about it. But for me personally, it's more about weight shift. I'm feeling the back leg and I'm feeling the front leg, okay? And this kind of just happens naturally because it's such a quick movement, I don't want to think about it anyways. Now, the last thing I want to talk about with the back leg is that once you drift, you're feeling that ground push back, you're getting that linear momentum, and you're here, right? And you're at foot plant, now you're ready to just fire. The last thing is that you want to keep the back leg connected, right? The back leg connection. And the reason for this is because when you land, right? And then if you're firing, and then, some people do this, like when the whole foot comes up like this and they're throwing like this. This is just like a hip flexor move, right? This isn't very explosive at all. But if you can keep it here and you're firing like this, okay, using your whole glute, you can feel your hamstring fire, you're using your posterior chain to fire the throw, right? And even finish the throw, okay? And it's a much more powerful movement than if you were to just, and you see a lot of high velocity throwers do this, where they don't really just come up like this. It's more just, they stay connected. And I never really knew what people said about, keep your back leg connected, because it didn't make sense. Like, am I just like going like this and then I can't even rotate? Like, cause but what I'm starting to figure out now is that, no, everything is rotating like this, but you just want to keep this like straight or, a little bit back. You don't want to just give it out, because that's what gives you a lot more energy going forward. The second reason for this is that it decelerates the pelvis earlier and better. It decelerates the pelvis more efficiently. And so if you're right here, you land, and then all you do is this, there's a tendency for you to maybe over rotate, right? And that's leaking energy. Because with the pitching delivery, yes, we're creating separation here. It's rotational energy, but this has to stop to turn into linear energy, right? All of this, it's not rotating through the target. It's you're rotating, and then all of this has to stop with your front leg and your obliques right here, and then it has to turn into linear momentum, okay? 80% of your velocity comes from this separation, and the other 20% is how well you can actually turn that rotational energy into linear energy toward the plate, okay? Why the back leg staying connected and staying back helps is because when you're here, everything is firing, and then what has to happen? Well, it has to turn into linear energy, right? And for that to happen, this pelvis has to fire really, really quickly, but then it has to decelerate, right? If it's just firing, then it would, there'd be energy going that way. And so it still needs to decelerate. And what you feel with this is like it fires, right? And then it decelerates quickly because it's still staying connected, right? And now it's in a really good position right here, fully open for your, for the front leg and everything to do its job and propel the upper body forward. And so I know I threw a lot at you, and this is probably stuff that you've never really heard about before, but to recap, right? It needs to start with the drift, but start with the drift, and then you're feeling an impulse in your back leg, okay? It's more like the ground is pushing back up at you. It's giving you energy. You're putting energy into the ground, and it stabilizes, right? And it's putting energy back in. You're also locking the back hip, okay? Back hip. So you're getting into this back hip, okay? You're counter-rotated with the pelvis, everything like that. Now all you need to do is you're getting to the front foot, and then you're driving with the posterior chain. And so that's pretty much it for today. Okay, so what I wanted to break down with this was actually myself and how I use my back leg and how I pretty much got like an instant 3 to 4 miles an hour just by incorporating this. And so if we were to go, slowly on this video, this was more of like a 90% day. And I was in the low 90s, which is honestly like some of the hardest I've ever thrown. And so I wanted to break down exactly what I was doing because, 90% days, I'd usually get up to the upper 80s, 88, 80, 86 to 88. That's kind of like the range for me in 90% days, but this was more of like a 89 to 91 day. So firstly, we get the drift, which is good. I'm still not really that great at the drift. It's still a slight shift though, which is good. I'm able to shift my weight slightly. My center of mass is more, here instead of just like directly over the plate. But this is the big thing that changed. So if we keep going right here, you can see that I'm getting into my back leg right here. And that's when I hit my max depth on my back leg, all right? And so it's right here. But then instead of me continuing to go lower, it's like I'm bursting out of that. You guys see that? So it's right here. I'm getting into it and I'm feeling that stabilize and it's out. It's out. So I'm getting that burst of energy out from the back leg instead of it just continuing to go lower, okay? And so what I was and this is a very subtle thing, but, previously, and I'll show some previous video, I would just continue to get lower. Like my knee might be like down there and then I would fire. But here, I'm actually getting a really nice impulse. So I'm here and then it's bursting energy toward the target and into the throw. Okay, now if I were to contrast it with something like this, right? Yes, I was still, throwing in the mid 90s right here, but like the back leg, although it looks like really, really powerful and everything, it kind of gets too deep. And so, I get absolutely no drift here, right? It's just straight up and down. And now all I can do is literally just drop as hard as I can, right? And that was probably, the position that I was in previously with the back leg depth, okay? But then what do? I continue to get lower, 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 lower. Look how low that gets. I keep getting lower, lower, lower. And it's literally like I'm in like a 90-degree squat position right here. And then what this actually does is it becomes very, very difficult to actually get out of that. You got to be really, really strong to be able to, power out of a position like that. And so, it's very taxing on the body. It's, very, it consumes a lot of energy. And so that's kind of what I did. But the big thing that I was able to do was actually power out of that, right? And rotate out of that. But getting so deep actually makes it really hard for you to rotate this back leg, right? And I do a pretty good job of this right here. But keep in mind, I do have some, outlier lower body strength and power. And so I do a pretty good job here. But for most guys, if you get too low, it's very, very difficult to firstly rotate the back leg, but also get the front leg to block nicely, right? And so if I go back, you can really see a huge difference between here, how deep I'm getting there versus the video I just showed. It's much, much less depth, right? And so I'm able to actually move really, really nicely laterally, right? This way and put a lot of force this way when I'm not getting so deep. Because if you're going so deep and all of it's going down, like the previous video I showed, I mean, all of that force is going down and it's very, very difficult to get it going this way, okay? And if you see a lot of high level guys, right, who throw gas, I mean, they don't really have that much. And you look at some high level guys, right, they don't get that much back leg depth, right? And so, it's just a misconception that a deep back leg means a strong back leg, because a lot of the high level guys, I mean, they're getting pretty shallow with their back leg, but they're able to get that burst of energy going forward. Again, if we look at Mizraski here, it's very apparent that, okay, he's dropping into his back leg, right? And then now he's just getting all of that to burst forward. Okay, there's no like, oh, let's try to get as deep into my back leg as possible. There's no, oh, let's try to, drop into my back leg as much as possible. It's pretty much, if you guys can see this, it's just a drop and it's kind of shallow, but all of that energy is going laterally toward the target, and he finishes. So that's kind of like the breakdown that I wanted to share. If you guys need any help with this, first link in the description. You can train with us. And if you need any help with this, first link in the description. You can train with us. Our guys get an average of 3 to 5 miles an hour. Some get even more. So you can book a call with us, and I'll see you there.